This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Hey guys, anybody has any questions from any of the previous topics? Operators, access groups, application, portal, access rules, role to object, privileges, or anything that we have discussed yesterday, rule sets, versions, application stack, rule set validation versus application validation. Any questions on any of those things? Feel free to ask me now. Okay. If not, we'll start with a new topic. So yesterday we were speaking about applications, rule sets, their version, their locking and all these things, right? So this is the end of that topic. I will move to classes. So like I had told you yesterday, in the App Explorer, wherever you see this green leaf icon, it indicates it is a class. An App Explorer always contains classes, and when you expand the class, you will find the rules under them. So that is how App Explorer look and feel is. When somebody goes to the App Explorer, the first thing that you will see the list of classes. And when you expand each class, you will see the content below them. Nothing but the rules under them, rules under the class. And as I mentioned yesterday, class is a collection of rules. Rule set is also a collection of rules. Okay. Now the interview question that you always keep expecting is, what is the difference between class and rule set then? Both are collection of rules. What is the difference? The difference is rule set is basically created for packaging and deployment. So whenever I create any rule or any data instance in Pega, we put it inside a rule set. Okay, into some data instances, not any, we put it under a rule set. Okay, so that when you deploy the code, the chance of forgetting or missing the code is less, because when you create itself, you tag it to a rule set. Okay, whereas class is just a collection of rules. Okay, so as a part of any requirement, I can create n number of classes and I can put n number of rules. What if I forget to deploy some rules or some classes? Then the code will not work as expected, right? So every time you create something, please put it under a rule set. So when you deploy the rule set, everything will get deployed. The chance of you missing something is less. So rule set is primarily created for packaging and deployment. But the definition of class and rule set remains the same. Both are collection of rules. And is class a rule? Class is basically a container. We neither say it is a rule nor a data instance. It is basically a container which can hold all the rules. Okay. Now when you see the leaf icon, you can always click on it and you can say definition. Okay. Just say definition. Please don't make a single click and say, Nikhila, I don't see that option. Okay, it's not a single click. Just right click on it.
Nikhila, your voice is very low today.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Now is better.
Okay. Oh, there's no noise around me, yaar. I mean, how about now?
It's good now, Nikhila.
Okay.
It's better.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So you need to right click on the class and the definition. Okay. So the class rule form will open up like this. You can just collapse this window. Okay. This is called as class rule form. Now what is the class name? It is here. To which rule set it is tagged. See, class is also tagged under a rule set. Okay. Class is also packaged under a rule set, so that when you deploy the code tomorrow, you will not forget the class. It's packaged, it's tagged to a rule set. Okay. Now what is present inside the class rule form? Type of class. Very important interview question. What are the types of classes we have? Whether you go to Pega or Java or any coding language or any tool, types of classes remain the same. There are two types of classes. One is called as concrete. It is right now disabled, but if you click on this, you will see two options. One is called as concrete, the other one is called as abstract. Okay, so there are two types of classes in Pega, abstract and concrete. Now, what exactly is an abstract class and what is a concrete class? See, concrete class means you will have work objects created. So what do you mean by work object now? Let's talk in real world. What is a work object? See, work object means when you run the application, okay, the order that you place in the application is called as a work object in technical terms. If you take the example of Amazon application, I log in into Amazon, okay, so I go and add some items to the cart and I make the payment. So I'm executing the application, right? I'm running the application. The code is getting triggered in the backend. And now my order is placed. I got an order ID and the order status and XYZ things. Now this order is nothing but a work object. Okay. So the transaction that you make in a application is called as work objects in technical terms. Now similarly, you go to HDFC application. You apply for a loan. Now you will get the loan number, loan amount and XYZ things and you can check the status of the loan. So loan is a work object. Now go to any other UPI app, maybe like Google Pay, Phone Pay, and you make a fund transfer. You will receive transaction ID. That is an example of work object. Now go to something like booking.com. Book a flight. So that booking instance is called as work object. Okay. Go to a website like Book My Show. Book a movie ticket. This is called as work object. So work object or just object or case or instance means nothing but the transaction that you make in an application. The output that you got while running the application. These are called as work objects or instances or cases. When somebody says what's your case ID? Case or instance or work object all are one and the same. Okay, it's nothing but the transaction that you make it runtime after running the application. Open Swiggy, order food, that is work object. Okay, now what are these classes? Abstract class and concrete class. See, as I told you, class is nothing but a collection of rules. And like I mentioned yesterday, you should have some end-to-end workflow. You should have some end-to-end requirement. For those things, we create classes. Like movie ticket, I have an end-to-end workflow. Like the person will come, register himself, then log in, then search for the movie, select a seat, okay, book some food, and then make the payment. That's for end-to-end workflow for movie ticket. So I create a class called as movie ticket. Electricity bill payment, you go there, you select the electricity department, give your ID, whatever electrical bill ID you have, that one, make the payment. That's a different workflow. So that will have a class. So like this, we create classes in PEGA, right? Now, when you create classes in PEGA, we are prompted to select the type, whether it's an abstract class or concrete class. So there are two types of classes, abstract and concrete. Now, when do you choose concrete class and when do you go for abstract classes? See, concrete classes means I'm going to put some code under this class, and when somebody executes the code, work objects are going to be created. Like here, movie tickets. It will be a concrete class. Yes, there's an echo. Somebody is not on mute. Okay. Movie tickets, it will be a concrete class because people are going to log in into the application, run the code under the movie ticket, and book a movie ticket. So work object is getting generated. That is movie ticket. Similarly, flight ticket. People will log in into the application, execute the code, and book a flight. So one work object is created. So concrete class. Electricity bill payment. You make the payment, work object is created. So it's a concrete class. So end of the day, when you create a class, how do you decide whether it is concrete or abstract? The main key point is, are you going to create work objects when the code gets executed? If yes, put it as concrete. If no, put it as abstract. Okay, so movie tickets, train tickets, electricity bill payment, recharge, all these will have work objects created under them, right? So they all are concrete classes. Similarly, if you go to Amazon, order, order is a concrete class. Go to HDFC, uh, transaction is a concrete class. Go to Swiggy, food order, food delivery is a concrete class. Means wherever you are having work objects created, those classes are called as concrete classes. Because where will you put the code? You will put the code under a class. Now that class, if it is concrete, when you run the code, work objects will be created. If that class is abstract, when you run the code, work objects will not be created. Okay. So now all these are examples of work object IDs. If you see here, order placed in Amazon is an example of work object. Mobile recharge done in Paytm is an example of work object. A fund transfer done in the bank is an example of work object. Similarly, other examples. Booking made on a booking website. Okay, and so on and on. All these are examples of work objects. Now, this is how you decide whether it's a concrete class or abstract class. If the class, the code below it, we are going to use for creating work objects, then we put it as a concrete class. Otherwise, we put it as abstract. So now let's understand, when do you go for abstract classes? So concrete classes, hope you're clear now. Anybody has any questions on concrete class? Okay. We'll move back to abstract classes. So we go for a class type as abstract if you just want to put that class for code reusability. What do you mean by code reusability? Let's see. Okay. Just a second, I'll open the notepad. Sharing my screen. Okay. We are talking about abstract classes. And you put a class as abstract, okay, if there are no work objects being created under it, and you want to just reuse the code. So let's take some examples. Suppose I'm going for a banking application. Okay, my application is a banking application. Now, in this banking application, people will come and apply for different types of loans. The loan can be a vehicle loan, it can be a housing loan, okay, or it can be an education loan, and so on and on. Okay, different types of loans they'll be applying. Now, vehicle loan, 100% it's going to be an abstract class because they come, they select the type of vehicle, XYZ stuff, and they apply for the loan. Housing loan, the same way, education loan, the same way. And they, when they apply for the loan, a loan ID will be generated. So, these three will be concrete classes because when the code under them gets executed, work objects are getting created. So, no doubt these are going to be concrete classes because work objects are generated, right? All of them are going to be concrete classes. Okay. Now, before applying for vehicle loan or housing loan or education loan, there are some prerequisites. What are those? First, they should have a new account in the bank. Okay. They need a new account in the bank. Second, we need your registration and login. Okay. And then we need your KYC, right? So only after all these things are completed, we will allow you to apply for whether vehicle or housing or education or whatever loan you want. Now, let's say I belong to vehicle loan team, you belong to housing loan team, and Lovely belongs to education loan team. Okay. Now, I started doing coding for the vehicle loan, and I am writing code for taking a new account, registration, login, and KYC. So I have done it here under the vehicle loan class. I have written code for all these things. Okay. Now, similarly, what housing loan team will do? They will also start writing code for all these things. Now, similarly, education loan team will also start writing code for all these things. Now, do you all belong to the same bank? Yes, we all belong to the same bank called as HDFC. Now, when you all belong to the same bank, then the process of registration, login, new account, KYC remains the same. When it remains the same, why are you rewriting the code? Why are you rewriting the code again and again? It's waste of time, money, and effort, right? When you all belong to the same bank, why do you want to write the code multiple times? Why can't you all, just build once and reuse it? Okay. So why do you want to put it like this multiple times? So we don't want to do like this. So what we do is we don't do like this. So whatever is common, okay, whatever is common, we want to put one parent class and put your code under that. The reusable code should be kept here. Okay. So whatever the code is reusable, we put it here. In the parent class, we put them, and the child classes can reuse it because you have inheritance concept, right? Children can always reuse the code of the parent. So all these three are children and they can reuse the code of the parent. So I'll put it in the parent class. Now you may be thinking, why class again? Why can't we put the code in the parent? You can never write code without having a parent class. I mean, like without having a class. Okay, it is mandatory. If you want to create a rule in any tool or technology, it should always be tagged to a class. Without having a class, you can just can't create a rule like that. They can't be lying like an orphan without a class. No. Code is always kept under a class only. You always need a class to keep the code. So first you need to create a class, put all the reusable code and make it as a parent. How to make it as a parent and all we'll talk when we come to inheritance topic. Okay, and make it as a parent like this. Now all the three child classes can reuse it. Not only these three. Tomorrow, let's say for example, you got a new gold like account, new loan type called as gold loan. they can also reuse this. Okay, another loan type came, they can also reuse it, right? So everybody can reuse it. So that is why we established this parent child relationship. Now, what is the name of this parent class? Let's call it as loan. Just loan. Okay, we can call it as loan, or you can give any name of your choice, like, we can say new account. Okay, or just account, something like that. You can give a name, some name you can give to your class. Okay, let's say it's a new account. New account is the class name. Okay, let's call it as account. Okay, now new account is a class name. Now will this have a work object created? No, it will not have any work objects created. They will only just, account, open a new account, do the registration, login, KYC stuff, and some maybe any payments, while applying for the loan you have to do some minimum payments, so that payment processing. Okay, all this reusable code you will put here. Now they will not have any work objects created, so they will only build some screens for registration, they will build some screen for login, some screen for KYC and payment processing. Okay, so they will do all these things. There are no work objects created here, so this class is going to be a abstract class. Why it is abstract? Because you only build some code, logics, screens, all those things, but no work objects are created here. Vehicle loan, when somebody applies a vehicle loan, we will use this code and we will create a vehicle loan for him. So here the work object is getting created. When somebody applies for an education loan, I will use this code, open a new account, let him log in, do the KYC, do the payment, and I will process his education loan. So here the work object is getting created and not here. Then why are all these things here? Why can't you put them here? Because I want to reuse the code. I kept it in the parent and reusing it. And the parent does not create any work objects. So we put it as abstract. Okay. So the difference between abstract classes and concrete classes is abstract classes will never create any work objects. They are just dummy classes. You put some code under them just for reusability so that the child classes can reuse it. Now, what are concrete classes? Under these classes, also code will be there, but they create work objects. Okay, abstract classes do not have work objects. Concrete classes will have work objects. Then, what is the purpose of an abstract class? Just to put some code and reuse it. That is the reason we put the abstract classes. Now, here comes a question, can't we put the code in a concrete class and reuse it? 100% man. You put this as concrete class and reuse the code. But why do you want to put it as concrete? Because you don't have any plans to create work objects. Okay, there is no. When somebody logs in, do you create a work object? No. Okay, first we don't create work objects for these things. So when you don't create work objects for these things, please don't put the class as concrete. Put them as abstract. Okay, nothing will happen if you put it as concrete and reuse the content, but it is not a good design approach. When you're not creating any work objects, make sure you mark it as abstract. Okay, now there's always another question, you know are always parent classes abstract? No. A parent class can be concrete or abstract depending upon the requirement. It is not necessary that parents are always abstract and child is always concrete. No, not at all. Depending upon the requirement, you can make parent as a abstract or concrete. Okay. Any questions? Did you understand the difference between abstract and concrete?
So concrete we are using while we are doing any monetary transaction or something like that, right? Other
If
than that,
why only monetary transaction?
for
It is not specific to any business, right? I can have concrete classes even in a project like Amazon, Swiggy, and wherever it is. It's
yeah,
not
so means
specific.
ordering means kind of thing while you are ordering, right? So there will be monetary transaction. And once you are ordering, then you are paying those kind of things, right? So while doing that one
No,
only,
no,
use it.
not at all. See, concrete is always like where you have work objects, you make it concrete. Abstract is where you do not have work objects creation, you make it abstract. Like if you take the example of Swiggy, let's say for example restaurant registration, or something like that, where we do not have any work objects getting created. So you can add your restaurant in the Swiggy app. So for that they don't generate any transaction. I mean, you can't come back and check what is my status of the registration and all such things will not be there. Restaurant registration means you just go there, just click on the plus icon and give your restaurant details, address, that's it. So there the work object is not getting created, so it can be an abstract class. Okay, so where there are no work objects, I mean, like there is no transaction being monitored, those will be abstract classes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so any reusable content we put it in the abstract class. Like registration, I'm trying to register into Swiggy. What will I do? I'll just log in with my Gmail ID and I'll start placing an order, or I will create a new account in Swiggy and I'll create a order. Now when I create a new account or I register myself, there is no transaction where it is monitored. Like I can't come back and check what is the history of my registration, when did I register. All that is not tracked. You just register and log in and start placing orders. So registration is can be an abstract class. Okay? Whereas this order history, orders placing is a concrete class. Okay? So something like that. I mean, like where we do not have any work objects getting created, no transactions being made, such things are called as abstract classes. Basically, for code reusability, we put them. Multiple classes need the same functionality, we put it in an abstract class.
Can we change the abstract class to concrete class later on?
Now, once the classes are created, you cannot change them. In the beginning itself, you need to decide. Some more examples of abstract and concrete. We spoke about this one, right? The topmost class can be abstract, and you put the registration, login, KYC, loan approval process in the abstract class. Actual work objects will be created in these classes, concrete classes. Similarly, if you take a bookings application, booking can be a parent class. Flight booking, hotel booking, train booking, bus booking will be concrete classes and child classes. Now, what is the common code among all these things? Payment. Paying through credit, debit, wallet is a common code. Registration login is a common code. So you can put all of them in the bookings abstract class and the actual flow of flight, hotel, train booking in the child classes. Now, when somebody logs into the application, they will book a flight, hotel, train, or bus where you will have their booking ID. So these are concrete classes. You will not have any ID for credit, debit, whatever type of payment you have chosen and how did you make the payment. You will not have any ID for that. So this will be a abstract class and reusable code will be kept here. Okay. So the generic code or the reusable code, we put it in the parent, and generally these parents will never create work objects. So we make them abstract. And in the childs, we will be creating the work objects and we mark them as concrete classes. Okay. And as I told you, parent class can be abstract or concrete. Similarly, child class can be abstract or concrete. It is never that parents are always abstract and childs are always concrete. No, don't understand like that. Just in these examples, parents are being abstract and children are being concrete. That's it. Okay. We'll go back to this class rule form and see how this is maintained. So it can be a concrete class or it can be an abstract class. Let me show you an abstract class as well. So this is an abstract class. Do you see here? This is abstract. Okay. So this is an abstract class and this is a concrete class. Now let's look at the differences. Concrete, abstract. Which rule set version? Same here. After that you see this option is a class group, belongs to a class group, does not belong to a class group. This is not present in the abstract classes. Okay. What else is not present? Below that you have inheritance here. Same inheritance here. Below that you have test connection. So you're connecting this class to a database table which is not present here. Okay. So we'll discuss the differences now. Abstract classes are not connected to any database tables. Concrete classes are connected to database tables. When you click on the test connection button, it will show you to which database table you're connected. First of all, why are we connecting tables and classes? The reason that you're connecting a table and classes, now today you went to the website and you applied for a vehicle loan. Okay, you applied for a housing loan. Now, where will I see it? As a developer, where can I see all that information? PEGA has to store that information, right? Storing in any technology is possible only through database. End of the day, data has to be stored only in the database. So where can I store all my work objects then? Today, 100 vehicle loans have been applied. Where will I store them? In a DB table. Today, 20 gold loans have been applied. Where will I find them? In a DB table. So every concrete class will be connected to a DB table. Why? To store the work objects, right? Where will I store the work objects otherwise? I need a table to store them, right? So every concrete class will be connected to a DB table. How about abstract classes? In abstract classes, nobody is creating work objects, right? So there is no necessity to have a DB table. So in abstract classes, DB tables connection will not be found because we don't store any work objects there. No work objects, so no DB tables. Okay. Now what is other thing missing? This is a class group, belongs to a class group, does not belong to a class group is missing. What exactly is this? We'll talk about it. Now you just understood that we have, tables for concrete classes, right? Now this same project I can design in a different way. See, different developers, different architects will design the same project in different ways. Okay. Nikhila, as an architect, she made this class as abstract. She made all these as concrete. And for vehicle loan, we have a table. Housing loan, I had a table. Education loan, I had a table. Gold loan, I had a table. Okay. So in each of these tables, the loans are getting stored. Vehicle loan, table. Okay. Similarly, housing loan, table. Gold loan, table to store the content. Okay. And education loan, table to store the work objects I have created. This is Nikhila's design. Now there is another architect, okay, whose design is different. This person said, no, this is not the right way to design. What he did is he created a parent class. Okay, the parent class is called as loan. He created a parent class called as loan. Okay, and in this scenario, if you see, the parent class was abstract, right? Now what this person did is, no, let me put it as concrete. Okay. He kept it as concrete. Does anyone apply for just loan? No, nobody applies for just loan. You will either apply for vehicle loan, housing loan, gold loan, or any of these classes you will apply. Nobody will apply for just loan. Okay. So what he did is same vehicle loan, housing loan, education loan, all these are again concrete classes. Okay. Parent is concrete, child is also concrete in this example. Whereas in this example, parent was abstract, child is concrete. So all this, all this, whatever is there, same thing. Okay, I'm just copying few of them, not to fill my screen. Okay, same reusable content you kept in the parent, and you will reuse it in the child, which is fine. Okay. Now, why did you keep this as concrete? People will apply for vehicle, housing, education loans. People will not apply as just loan, right? There is nothing as just loan. What is a type of loan? Then why did you create as concrete? Concrete means you will have a table. Okay. So when you say concrete, you will have a table to store data. Now, what is the use of this table, man? Nobody will create something called as loan. People will only create something called as vehicle loan, housing loan, education loan, gold loan, something. So, table is required here. Why are you making it as concrete and why are you putting a table here? So, Nick, this architect's thought process was different. What this architect is thinking is, why do you want to maintain multiple tables like this? Why can't we have one common table called as loan and put all the data in that? Why do you want to maintain so many tables, so many columns? All that is not required. So that is what the architect was thinking, because if you have so many tables and so many connections and all, maybe there'll be some performance issues and all. I'm just saying. Okay. So what that architect thought is, let's have a common table. Okay. So for all these three concrete classes, we have a common table, loan, and this loan is given by the parent. Common table called as loan, coming from parent class. Okay, so in this design I made loan as a concrete class and I gave a table. And what I did is, whenever somebody applies for vehicle loan and housing loan and education loan, I will store in this table. Is it possible to reuse the code of the parent? Yes. Is it possible to reuse the table of the parent class? Yes. We can reuse the table of the parent class as well. Vehicle loan work objects I can keep in the parent class table. Housing loan work objects I can keep in the parent class table, and so on and on. How can I reuse parent class tables? So this is where this class group concept comes into the picture. Okay. So what is a class group, belongs to a class group and does not belong to a class group? Is a class group means I am a parent class and I am willing to share my database table with my child classes. So is a class group will be present only in the parent classes. When I am willing to share the table with my children, I put it as is a class group. Belongs to a class group means I am a child class. I am willing to reuse the parent class table. Does not belong to a class group means I have my own table, no sharing, nothing. That's it. So like this, when you create a class, you decide whether you want to have your own standalone tables, or you want to reuse the table of your parent, or you yourself, you are the parent and willing to share it with your child classes. So it purely depends upon the design, the architect, the person who is doing all this, things. Same project, one person can put it like this and create multiple tables and map them. Same project, another person can do it like this with one single table and reuse the table. Okay, so it purely depends upon who is designing it. Now in this case, what will be present in this class? Is a class group, belongs to a class group, or does not belong to a class group? So in this case, it will be I'm a parent class. I'm willing to share the table of with my child, right? So it will be is a class group because this class is sorry this class is sharing its table with child classes. Now how about each of these? What will they have? All these three are sharing the parents table. So they will say belongs to a class group. Okay? Because they are sharing as they are sharing parent table. Okay? So a person can design a project in different ways. Now in this, which is the best approach if you ask me? See, it depends, man. If you have lot of data, okay, if you have lots and lots of data being stored, then it is better to have separate tables. Okay, let's say in one single table you have 10 lakh records. Okay, maybe like some for vehicle, some for house, some for education, some for gold loan. Now, whenever you hit the table and get the data, it will be time consuming because 10 lakh records have to be processed. So, in this scenario, better to have separate tables. Okay, whereas if the data is very less, maybe you hardly have 1,000 or 10,000 records, go for a common table. Why do you want to have separate tables? So depending upon the performance, storage, content, xyz reasons, we will decide this. Now, end of the day, what is your learning? What is the difference between abstract class and concrete class? Abstract class means in this class we are not willing to create work objects, they are just created to reuse the content. Okay, concrete classes means they will have work objects, means when the code under them executes, work objects are created. So login can be an abstract class because when somebody logs in, do you store it anywhere in the database? Do you maintain a transaction for that? No, right? So login is an abstract class. Like that, all these can be abstract. Now, what is a class group, belongs to a class group and does not belong to a class group? You can have one table created and reuse it all for all the child classes. Okay. Then in the parent, you say is a class group. Means I'm a parent, I want to share my table with the childs. In the child, you say belongs to a class group. Means I'm a child, I'm sharing my parent table. Okay. So that is the difference between these two. Now what is does not belong to a class group? No sharing, nothing. I and my table. That's it. That is does not belong to a class group. Now what is class group? Collection of classes. Class group. Group of classes. See here we have a group of classes, right? So class group means just collection of classes, nothing much. Any questions on this one? Have a look at it and let me know if you have any questions.
Um, Nikhila, you told like in the abstract class, there won't be any data like connection and all. So when we create like a registration, that has to be stored somewhere else, right?
See, when you do a registration, we just store your username, password, first name, last name. Like we store it in the operators table. That's it. But see, I can't come back and see. It's like see, when I place an order in Amazon, I can come
Mm.
back and track it, right? What is my order ID? What is the status? When did I place it, and all that. But registration is not like that. Just a record is stored for your account details. So when I can come back and check, I can only see who are all the people who are accessing my application. But tracking the status of my registration, all that will not be there. Uh, if registration is confusing, go for login and see. See, login can be a class. It will be an abstract class. You don't track all that, right? When somebody logs in, you don't create a work object for that. You don't track like when did he log in, when did he log out, what did he all do as a part of login. You don't track all that. So it is just an abstract class. You display a screen, let him log in, do whatever he wish. See KYC. You just upload some documents and you log out. Okay, you KYC it can be concrete as well. Let's not take this.
So we don't define any table for this registration.
Yeah, because there is no tracking, no status. No, we don't check it later. It's just like one time. You
Yeah.
come, you register yourself, it's over. Something like that. See,
So
registration being abstract or concrete is debatable. It depends upon the project. Okay, so if you want to have a separate table for all the registered users, you want to pull a report from that and all, it can be concrete. Okay, so it depends upon the architect. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it depends upon the architect. It can be abstract or it can be concrete. Now
suppose if
take the
we
mm,
yeah,
mm.
if we take it as abstract, so where those data would be stored?
See, I will build a registration page, okay, where you will give the first name, last name,
Mm.
all your details, and you click on submit. When you click on submit, what I will do is I'll store this data in the operator ID table, PR underscore operators.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so I will not maintain a separate table for the registration class and store in that. So that way it is.
So in the operator ID table, we can add multiple fields, right?
I mean, like, see, what do you do when you register? You will give your email ID, first name, last name, phone number, all these things. Already these columns are there in the operator ID table, right? So I need
Common.
not explicitly add something.
Suppose KYC, you told like it would be in the operator ID.
No,
Okay.
KYC will not be in the operator ID. KYC is like, let's assume that in KYC, let's assume like this, okay?
Mm.
KYC is an abstract class.
Mm.
And in the KYC, what people are doing is they just designed a screen where you
Mm.
come, you upload your
Yeah.
documents, whatever it is.
Mm.
Okay, and it gets routed to a team of people where they will do validation and they will just proceed. So in this entire process, they are nowhere storing your documents, they are nowhere storing the status of your KYC and all. So it can be an abstract class.
Mm. So what does it mean like nowhere storing? It has to be stored somewhere else, right? When we upload.
No, let's say documents are getting stored, but what is the status of my KYC? Is it approved, is it not approved? If you're not tracking all that, then it can be an abstract class. If you're tracking all that, then again it will be a concrete class.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
what in many scenarios it depends upon the architect how you're designing it.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose system is validating your KYC. Okay, let's assume that using AI, they are validating your KYC. So I
Mm.
sit on front of the screen, I upload it. Right away, it will say validated or not validated and to re-upload. So in that case, I'm not storing it anywhere. I'm not tracking the status. Nothing is there. So it can be an abstract class in this scenario. Whereas I upload it, it goes to a team of people. They will check it and they will again reassign it to you. If there is any discrepancy in the data provided, they reassign it to you. Then all this is a work object, so that can be a concrete.
Okay.
Okay, so depending upon the scenario, a class can become either abstract or concrete. It's the way that you design it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got
I
it.
have a question. In a real world scenario, does the LSA design the class or even
See, in the
like,
very beginning of the project, the LSS will create the application, create the rule sets, create operators, access groups, create some basic classes, and they will hand it over to the development team. Now, later on, it's the dev team who creates new classes when they require. Okay, only the initial base will be built by the LSS.
thing?
Hi Nikhila, what is LSS means? LSS means I
Lead
don't know.
system architect. See, in PEGA, we call everybody as system architects. CSA, WSA, LSA are your certifications. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So basically, leads in the project or senior most architects in the projects, people with huge experience in the IT industry and in PEGA, we call them as LSAs.
Okay, fine.
Nikhila, can a child class also be a class group, right?
Yes, of course. See, a child class can be abstract, a child class can be a class group, Anything is possible. End of the day, you have a table you want to share with your children. See, it's like I have parents, I have kids. So I am a parent for my kids and I want to share my table with my kids. So I put it as is a class group. So it is possible.
Nikhila, concrete class can be created without having the abstract class, right? Is it good?
100%, 100%. That's what I'm saying. A parent
Right.
can be abstract or concrete. It is never a rule that parent should always be abstract and child should always be concrete. No. Parent can be anything. Just now I have shown you the design change, right? In one example, the topmost one was abstract. In the same project, I have designed it keeping the topmost as concrete. So it depends
Okay.
upon the, LSA, what factors he has considered while designing it. You can put it anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Now go back to Pega and see this. I select the class type as concrete or abstract. I select in which rule set version this class is getting packaged. And then is a class group means I'm sharing the table of my parent class. Now the next question they're asking is what's your parent class name? Okay. So you have to put your parent class name here. Okay. So the parent class name should be ideally HDFC Fin claims hyphen work hyphen work. Why is debit coming here? Okay. So you can say it is a belongs to a class group. So they're asking me what's your parent class name. So parent class name is still work. Okay. So this is HDFC Finance claims work dash debit card. And they are saying the parent of this one is HDFC Fin claims dash work. This is the parent and these are the children. And this is sharing the table of its parent. Now look at this class. What will it have? It's a parent, right? So it will say is a class group. Means I'm willing to share the table with my child classes. Child says belongs to a class group. I want to share my parents class table. Okay. And generally for data classes, we'll talk about what is data and all later. They'll have does not belong to a class group means I and my own table. No more sharing. Let's say for example you have a table called as customer data. See, customer data is a standalone table, right? You will put the customer first name, last name, email ID, XYZ things. You don't share it with anyone else, right? This table is, only for itself. So I say does not belong to a class group. No sharing, nothing. So like this, depending upon your requirement, you decide the class groups. And class groups is a very important interview question. The difference between these three is the most frequently asked interview question.
So if a class becomes a class group, it automatically becomes a parent for other classes, right?
Right. It becomes a parent only by defining the inheritance. What is inheritance? We'll talk in the next few minutes. So when you say is a class group, tilde whatever I have as child classes, for those I'm ready to share my table. Okay. Just because you said is a class group, uh, you can't map other classes as children. No, you already have children. For those child classes you want to share, so you say is a class group.
Okay, for the classes which are child to the parent or
Only,
to the class. Yeah, okay.
right. Only to those classes you can share. To every other class, you can't share the table.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
We'll do a small recap. Okay. Class versus rule set, a very important interview question. Class is a collection of rules. Rule set is also a collection of rules. Then why do we need both? Rule set is basically for packaging and deployment. Okay. All the rules that you create will be tagged to a class and a rule set. Okay. So there are chances you might forget few classes, then the data will be missed. Whereas in rule set, everything is tagged. So if you deploy a rule set, the classes plus data instances like operator IDs, access group privileges, all these are tagged to a rule set. So everything will get deployed without missing anything. Now, examples of classes. Okay, wherever you have an end-to-end workflow, we generally create a class. Okay, like loan, I have an end-to-end workflow. Swiggy order, one end-to-end workflow. Bus ticket, one end-to-end workflow. So we create classes. Now, what is the requirement for to have a class? You can never write code in any tool or technology without having a class. So you just need to create a class first, and then inside that you put the code. It's like you need to create a folder. Inside the folder, you put your documents. The same way you need to create a class, and inside that you need to put your code. Now, what is a work object? A transaction made in an application is called as work objects. I went to IRCTC, I booked a train ticket. The ticket is a work object. Okay. I went to Amazon, I placed an order. That order is a work object. I went to Google Pay, I made a fund transfer. That transaction is a work object. So work object means the output that you get after running the class and the code under it. That is called as work objects or cases or instances. All these are examples of work objects. Now what is work object ID? Work object ID is nothing but the transaction ID. In the case of Amazon, order ID is called as work object ID. So in technical terms, we say work object ID. In case of banking application, your transaction ID is called as work object ID. In case of hotel booking, your booking ID is called as work object ID. Okay. So work object ID is nothing but your transaction ID. So if you're a layman, you call it as transaction ID. If you're a technical person or a developer, we call it as work object ID. Types of classes. Whichever technology you go, it remains the same. There are two types of classes, abstract, concrete. Abstract means these classes are just created to put the code for reusability purpose. These classes will never have work objects created under them. These classes will never have any database table connected to them to store the work objects. Okay, because we don't even have work objects, then what is the point in having a DB table? Okay, and they do not have any is a class group and all these mappings because they don't even have a table, right? That's it. Now, what is a concrete class? The code under this will execute and create work objects, and they will have a DB table connected to them to store the work objects. Okay, and any class I mean, parent can always be a abstract class or concrete class. There is no rule that parent should always be abstract. Okay, they can be anything. Examples. Now, loan can be abstract, education, vehicle, housing loan can be concrete. Put the reusable content in loan class and reuse them. Booking can be abstract, flight, hotel, train, bus booking can be concrete. Put the reusable content in booking and reuse them. Now, coming to class groups. In the class rule form of PEGA, we need to mention this option. Now, is a class group means it is a parent class and willing to share the table with its child classes. Belongs to a class group, it's a child class and willing to share the table of the parent. Does not belong, no sharing. I and my class, we are self-sufficient. Okay, this is class groups. So in the same example of loan, you can see loan can be a class group. Means I'm willing to share my table with my child classes. Vehicle loan, housing loan, all these can say belongs to a class group and they can reuse the table and store the data. Similarly, there is a table called as countries. See, in countries table, you will put all the country names. Generally, you can't share it with any other classes, right? So it will have does not belong to a class group. Means no sharing, nothing. Okay. So this is an example of is a class group, belongs to a class group, and does not belong to a class group. Have a look at it and let me know if you have any questions.
Nikhila, the difference, whatever you said between classes and the rule set, can you a little bit iterate? I didn't get that one.
Okay. See, let's say for example, I created 3 classes. Okay. I created 3 classes. I kept some code under that. Okay. Similarly, along with 3 classes, I created some operators. Okay. Few new operators I created and few new access groups, role to objects I created. Okay. And access privileges also I created. Okay. So I created all these things as a part of some XYZ story. Now I'm supposed to deploy the code. Now what will happen? I'm creating a zip file to deploy the code. I kept all the classes, all the 3 classes I kept. So all the code in that will get deployed. Now I'm supposed to deploy operator IDs, access groups and role to objects also. Operator IDs, they do not belong to any of these 3 classes. Access groups, they do not belong to any of these 3 classes. Role to object, they do not belong to any of these 3 classes. So you have to explicitly deploy the code. You have to explicitly, take the jar or the zip file and deploy the code. So what will I do? I will take the jar or zip for whatever it is, whatever we have the process of deployment in Pega. We'll explicitly take the necessary content to deploy the code for operators, access groups, and role to objects. Now there is a chance that by mistake, I missed a couple of access groups. Now what will happen? After deploying the code, it will not work as expected and they will create a defect for this, right? So how can you get rid of these kind of mistakes? I want to make sure that everything is getting deployed without missing anything. Okay. So how can you make sure that nothing is missing? So what we do is we use rule sets. Okay, if you use a rule set, how can you make sure that you are not missing any operator IDs, access groups, role to objects, all these data instances, how can you make sure you're not missing? So when you open any operator ID, you can see it is tagged to a rule set. Generally, we tag them to a rule set in Pega. Here we mention the rule set name. Whatever you can mention your rule set names like this. Similarly, for access groups, we tag to a rule set. Look at this. Role to object, we tag to a rule set. Now, what is the benefit of tagging to a rule set? Instead of deploying the classes separately and operator IDs, access groups, and role to objects separately, better you deploy the rule set. See, if you see this, class is also tagged to a rule set. Okay. Operator IDs, access groups, role to objects, privileges, all data instances are also tagged to a rule set. So if you deploy the rule set, 100% everything tagged to it will get deployed. So that is the reason we use rule sets for packaging and deployment and not classes. Okay.
It
Now
is
we
kind of versioning. It's kind of versioning for the deployment.
rule sets have versions, but deployment
Okay.
doesn't have version. It is just packaging. So when you create the rule itself, you are putting it under a package called as rule set. So when I create an operator ID, I put it under claims. When I create an access group, put it under claims. When you create a role to object, put it under claims. So tomorrow when you deploy claims, all these will get deployed. Nothing will be missing.
Okay.
So from day one, you have to make sure that you're tagging everything to a rule set. If you miss tagging it, then 100% you will miss deploying it as well. So developers need to be careful with this. Okay. So that's basically for packaging. We use rule sets.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions on the class rule form? Always remember, if you want to know to which table my class is connected, you have to click on the test connection. It will tell you your class is connected to this table in this schema.
Class and table connections, database connections. We'll talk about them in the later sessions. Okay. Today my agenda is only about class, types of classes, inheritance, class groups, differences. Only this we are focusing. Okay. So we'll talk about them. If no questions, we'll move to inheritance. Do you see this? We have something called as inheritance here. Okay. So anybody, any idea about inheritance? General inheritance in Java or something. Can you tell me what
Inheriting,
exactly is in? Mhm.
inheriting the property from parent to
Mm.
the child class.
Right. Anybody has any other answers about inheritance?
Um,
Reusability. To reuse the code from the parent.
Reusing the code from the parent is called as inheritance. Okay, super. Any types of inheritances that you know?
yeah, basically single, multi-level, multiple, hierarchical.
Multi-level and
Exactly.
Pattern, direct.
So you're talking about Pega's inheritance, pattern and direct. Okay. See, in Java, you have multi-level inheritance, right, or multiple inheritance and all these things, which means that one class can inherit from multiple parents, right? Same is the case in Pega. We have different types of inheritances in Pega. One is called as pattern inheritance, and the other one is called as directed inheritance. Now, what exactly is inheritance? Just reusing the code of the parent. Okay, you gave one class as abstract, you give remaining classes as concrete. How can they reuse? Only if they have parent-child relationship, they can reuse. Okay, if you don't have parent-child relationship, you cannot reuse the content. Now, this is also an interview question. What are the various types of inheritances you have in Pega? Pattern inheritance and directed inheritance. Okay, so pattern inheritance means your name itself will indicate who are your parent classes. See, generally in any language or tool, your class names will be like order, okay, transaction, something like that. Like that, the class names will be single words, right? Order is a class, vehicle loan is a class, mobile recharge is a class. That's how the naming convention of a class is generally in any tool or technology. But in Pega, the naming convention of a class is different. Your class name defines your pattern inheritance. Your class name will contain all your parent class names. Suppose your name is Vivek. Okay. So generally in Pega it will be like, suppose your parent is X hyphen Vivek. That will be your name. So your name is always followed by your name, your parent name, your grandparents' name, your great grandparents' name. So like that the class names in Pega is. It is not just your name, but it will have all your parent, great parents' names in the precedence. So if you look at the class names in Pega, they are like this. HDFC Finance Claims Work Debit Card. So the actual name of this class is just debit card. And why all this tag is coming in the begin? It's nothing but parent, grandparent, great grandparent, and so on and on. So class names in Pega will always contain your inheritance names. The parent class inheritance names will be present in your class name. So pattern inheritance means your class name itself will tell you who are your parents. So who is the parent of debit card? HDFC Fin claims work. Okay, who is the parent of work? HDFC Fin claims. Who is the parent of claims? HDFC Fin. Who is the parent of Fin? HDFC. Who is the parent of HDFC? Pega's OOTB classes. We'll talk about it. Let's look at the inheritance now. So right click on any class in Pega and say inheritance. Earlier you clicked on definition to open the class rule form. Now you click on inheritance. You can see this. Current class is debit card. Whose parent is work? Whose parent is claims? Whose parent is fin? Whose parent is HDFC? From here onwards, Pega's OOTB classes. Pega's built-in classes. Okay. So pattern inheritance in Pega means Your naming pattern will tell you who are your parents. So at runtime, if I'm looking for some piece of code, let's say I'm looking for a function related to KYC. First, I will search in debit card class. It is not there. I will search in work, not there. Claims, not there. Fin, not there. HDFC. Like this, you will search the code. So pattern inheritance means the name of the class name itself will tell you who are your inherited parents. Okay, where do you inherit from? All that you get to know from the class name itself in Pega. Okay, that is pattern inheritance. Now, just like in Java, you have multiple inheritance. You don't have multiple inheritance in Java, but you have this interfaces class interface concept, right? You can inherit from a class or an interface. Same way in Pega, you can inherit from a different parent also, not only from your pattern parents. You can even inherit from other classes by making them as your parents. Okay, suppose according to your inheritance, okay, some class is not there. Let's say, for example, e-claim request is not there. Just for example, okay. Let's say, for example, I want to inherit the code from e-claim request, but e-claim request is nowhere my parent. Okay, but I want to inherit from it. I want to make it as my parent. Now, how can I make it as my parent and inherit from it? So for that, we have something called as directed inheritance. Directed inheritance means there is some class. It's not my parent, but I want to make it my parent and I want to inherit from it. Then what you can do? Open your class like this. Okay. And here give that other class name. Whichever you want to make it as your parent, you just give that other class name. That's it. It becomes your directed parent now. Okay. So like this, you can have pattern inheritance and directed inheritance in Pega. Pattern inheritance means the naming pattern itself will tell you who are your parent classes, and you can reuse the content from those classes. Directed inheritance means, why is it written as directed pattern? Okay. Directed inheritance means you want to make some other class as your parent. It's not in your inheritance path, but I want to pull it. I want to make it as my parent, reuse the content from it. How can you do that? You explicitly go and map it under the class definition, and that becomes your directed inheritance. Okay, so when we want to inherit from other class which is not your pattern parent, then we map it as a directed parent.
I
Okay,
guess uh, directed means adoption and
exactly.
inherited is blood,
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly the same way. If you speak in real world, your blood relation is pattern inheritance, adopted relationship is directed inheritance. Okay, and it is not mandatory to have some class as a directed parent. So when I create a class in Pega, okay, I just created a class in Pega, okay, called as debit card. Now depending upon the name, I know who are my pattern parents. Now what to give under my directed inheritance? I don't have any requirement now. I don't have any new class to be adopted and made as my parent. So what should I do then? Just leave it empty and save? No, you can't leave it empty and save. See, they will throw an error. You need to provide the directed inheritance. But the problem is I don't have any requirement to bring somebody and make it as my directed parent now. Then what should I do? So this is an interview question. When you create a new class in Pega, directed inheritance is mandatory. And as of now, you don't have a requirement to map some class as a directed parent. Then what will you do? In that case, what you can do is take your pattern parent. This is your pattern parent, right? Take your pattern parent, and for time being, okay, just for time being, give the same pattern parent as directed parent and save your changes. So just for time being, I gave my same pattern parent as directed parent because it's a mandatory field. I have to fill it. So generally, when we don't have any requirement to explicitly tag a class as directed parent, we give the pattern parent and we save it just to avoid that error while saving. Later on, after 1 year, after 5 years, I decided, oh, I want some other class as a pattern parent. I can come and I can change it like this. Okay. So this is how we mention the directed parents. So there are two types of inheritance in PEGA: pattern inheritance, directed inheritance. Pattern means your name itself will tell you where do you come from. A hyphen B hyphen C hyphen D. D's parent is C, C's parent is B, B's parent is A. What is directed inheritance? You explicitly bring some class and you mention it here under the class rule form and you make it a parent. Just you're adopting it. So they become your directed parents. And now you can inherit from both the classes. Let's say, for example, claims hyphen. Let's say, for example, okay. I gave some class as my directed parent. Okay. Now you look at this inheritance. Debit card, parent work, work claims, claims fin HDFC. After HDFC, do you see your directed inheritance is coming? So all the pattern is completed now. You went to the root class, the topmost class. Now directed inheritance is starting. HDFC, FW, and so on. Okay. If you give more, the rest of things will also come. Like say, for example, I say they are all siblings. I'm just looking if I can inherit from something else. Hmm. Just a second. Just thinking what class I can give here. Just okay, randomly I'm giving some class. Look at this. You go till the root class HDFC. So it is done. All the pattern parents are done. Now you opt for the directed parents. Assign dash work basket as batch decision. Assign dash work basket. Assign dash. So like this, when you look for something, first you will check in your pattern parents. Okay. If it is not found in the pattern parents, you will go and check in the directed parents. Okay. Like you saw here, first they are traveling only with the pattern parents. First debit card, then work, claims, fin, HDFC. Now you are done. Now you start with your directed parent like this. So this is an interview question. When there are two inheritances, both pattern and directed, which inheritance is considered first? Which inheritance takes priority? Pattern inheritance takes priority. First, we check for the rules in the pattern parents. If it is not found there, we check in the directed parents. Any questions so far? Okay. If no questions, now here comes another interview question. The interview question is, can you swap this inheritance? Like first I want directed to be considered, then I want pattern to be considered. Is it possible to make it vice versa? Yes, it is possible. If you see there is a checkbox, find by pattern first. If you disable this checkbox, okay, first directed will be considered, next pattern will be considered. So if you disable it, they will work vice versa. Okay. Any questions?
What is what cover?
Which one? Pega's OOTB classes. They're all Pega's OOTB classes.
Okay.
We'll talk about Pega's OOTB classes in the next session. Just at a high level showing you. @base class is the Pega's topmost class. Under this you have this many classes. In your work dash, cover dash is under this. So all these are Pega's OOTB classes. Okay. Everything you build today is built on top of Pega, right? So everything you're building today is coming from Pega's OOTB classes only.
I have a
We'll talk
question.
about
Like,
that.
in which scenario would we use find by name first pattern?
Generally, 90% of the scenarios, first we check in the pattern parents. If it is not found, we go to the directed parents. Okay. In very rare scenarios, you have a rule. Let's say, for example, okay, there is a, let's say, there is a class called as class A. Okay. Under class A, you have class B. Okay. Let's say class B. One second. Okay. Let's say, for example, you have a class called as A-B. Now, according to the naming convention, B is the current class. B's pattern parent is A. Okay. Now, I brought some other class called as C and I made it as a directed parent. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, from here, you have something called as, you're calling something called as registration. You want to call registration code. Okay. You want to trigger registration code from the child class. Now, registration code is not there in the child class. Okay. They want to trigger it. They want to trigger registration code. It is not there in the child class. It is there in this parent and in this parent as well. In both the parents, it is there. Now, generally, how it works, first we will check in the pattern parent. If it is not found in the pattern parent, only then we will go to the directed parent, right? So, what Pega does is, it will first check in B. It is not there in B, which is a child class. Then it will check in A. I found it in A, so I will execute the code. Now, I will not even check in the directed parent because I found the code, right? Why should I again go and check here? It is not necessary because I already found it. They don't check it. But let's say, for example, there is a requirement that according to that requirement, this registration code should not be triggered. This is the old way of getting registration. Okay, let's say it's an old way. Okay, we don't want this code to be triggered any longer. Okay, I want only this code.
Depreciated methods.
Kind of. Let's say, for example, there is some piece of code. Okay, maybe it is old way, or maybe you would want to trigger it for various reasons. Okay, for some reason you don't want the code which is coming in your pattern parent to be triggered. I want the code in the directed to be triggered. If it is not found in the directed, then I want the pattern to be triggered. So in this case, what you have to do, you have to disable this checkbox. If you disable this checkbox, they will first check in the directed parent. Okay, you found the code, you execute it. You will never check here because you already found it, right? So you will execute it. So like that in a rare scenarios, you end up disabling the checkbox where you don't want the pattern code to be triggered and you want the directed code to be triggered.
Is it to save the time We are going with that one.
No, 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 no. Why? What time you're saving? It's one and the same, right? End of the day, this is child going to parent. Same thing. There's nothing like time saving. Just I don't want to use this code. Okay, maybe this is an old way of registration. Okay, now we have enhanced it. This is the new registration code. So going forward, I want to call this code and not this code. So you change the inheritance. This gets triggered first and later this. But when you are changing like this, please remember that for every single piece of code, this is the pattern they follow. I mean, like not only for registration. Let's say we also have something for login, something for KYC, something for payment in both the classes. Always remember they will always check the directed class first and then go to the pattern. So you should be very careful when you're changing it. If you're 100% okay, then you can switch. It's not at all to save the time. It is just because I don't want this code, I want this code to be triggered. But generally, how it behaves, you go to your direct pattern parent first. If the pattern parent is having the code, you execute it. You don't go to the directed, right? But I want the behavior to be vice versa. I want to check in the directed. If it is not there in directed, I want to go to pattern. So in that case, only you disable the checkbox, and that's a rare scenario. Generally, we don't disable it. Okay, is
I
that
got it.
clear? Do you have any questions? Rajesh, regarding your question about creating work objects without having a transaction ID, when we start the practicals and we start working on the flows, we'll talk about it. Okay.
Sharing the DB, right? How it works in real world. Sharing the DB from parent to child and child to
Child to parent, you never share. Parent to child only, it is possible. So it's just see if you see this. What does it say? Sorry, did I save it? Oh yeah. Let me put it back. Allow me a second. What does this say? Belongs to a class group. Means it's a child. It is sharing the table of the parent. Now, where is the parent? This one, right? This is the parent. Open that. Okay. This is the parent. What does it say? Is a class group. Means I have a table. I want to share it with my child. Now click on test connectivity here and see what is the table name. HDFC Finance Claims Work. Go over here and click on test connectivity. HDFC Finance Claims Work. See, automatically PEGA will take the table of the parent and connect to this class. You need not do anything explicitly. When I say belongs to a class group and I give the parent name, PEGA will take the parent class table and connect it to the child class. And tomorrow, when you create work objects in the child class, automatically they will go to the parent table only. So it's all taken care by PEGA.
Nikhila,
So
as we say, some sibling classes are there. We want to make use of that data. So can we give that in
we
the
never use
discussion?
siblings. It's not the right way to design. Siblings are siblings, right? You should never inherit from them. Only from the parent classes or from any other external classes you can inherit. Like parent classes, they become your pattern parents. Any other classes, you make them as directed parents and inherit. Never make sibling a parent to yourself. That's a wrong design. If there
These
is
all are
anything,
everything.
Mhm. Yeah, please.
These all are everything is Java OOPS concepts, right? Same thing we are using here.
Yes, it is the same thing. Pega is built on Java, so same thing you'll find here.
Okay.
If you and your sibling class have something in common and you want to reuse it, please put that common code in the parent and reuse it. Don't make your sibling as a parent. Okay, put that common stuff in the parent class and reuse it.
Hi, Nikhila. My question is every class has a default class or something like, I mean, suppose in Java, even the parent class is also having a base class, like object class is a base class. Similarly, is there any mandatory or something that every class need to have a parent class or something here?
See, we all inherit from a base class called as at the rate base class in Pega. I'll talk about it. Just don't want to overload you guys. So we also have
Okay.
base classes and different types of classes like you see at the bottom. Some important types of classes, we'll talk about them. Okay. If I start discussing all those things, it'll be too much on the same day. So we will be doing it, but in the later session. Similarly, those who know Pega, maybe you know there is a database DB instance where we establish the mapping between class and tables, database instance where we connect to DB. So all that I'm not covering right now. Although we are talking about this, we are not covering right now because it'll be an overload. Okay. As we keep moving, I'll cover all those things. Okay. Now, there is always an interview question. Do we really need direct inheritance? Can't we build a project without direct inheritance? You just now saw, right? Direct inheritance is optional. I mean, like, I can just give my pattern parent name here and save it. I need not, it's not mandatory for me to get some class and make it as a directed inheritance. I mean, like, for time being, I can even give my, okay, somebody's not on mute. Yeah, for time being, I can just give my direct pattern parent as directed parent and I can save it. So the question in the interviews is, can you create a project completely on pattern inheritance without using directed inheritance anywhere? Is it possible? A small POC or a big project, anything is okay. Can you build in Pega without using directed inheritance and just by using pattern inheritance? Anybody, any answers? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Good. Why no?
Yes.
So you're saying yes, some are saying no. Let's see how it is. So according to pattern inheritance, I can go from request to work, work to claims, claims to fin to HDFC. Now HDFC is a dead end for you. After HDFC, where will you go? It's a last point according to pattern inheritance. Now from here, directed inheritance started. Now, according to the interviewer question, I should not use directed inheritance, completely pattern. If it is completely pattern, then HDFC is the dead end. Okay. But is HDFC your project or Pega's project? My project, right? Now you are building your application on Pega. See, when you build your application in Java or in Pega, what does that mean? I'm reusing all the built-in code of Java, or I'm using the rules engine of Java and I'm building my application. Similarly, when I'm building a project in Pega, I'm going to reuse all the OOTB rules or built-in rules of Pega and I'm building my project. I can't build a project just like that, right? Without reusing the content of Pega, I can't build a project. So after I reach the dead end, which is HDFC, okay, what next? Let's open HDFC and see. See, your HDFC class has a directed inheritance with Pega's work dash cover dash. Why is this necessary? Can't we remove it and leave it empty and save? No, you can't. You know, right? Directed inheritance is mandatory. Okay, then what should I give for HDFC? HDFC doesn't have any pattern parents. It is at the dead end. It is the last in the hierarchy. So what should I give here then? You have to give
HDFC?
some Pegas. No, you can't give like that. You can't be a parent of yourself. Okay. So you have to give some Pegas built-in classes. Now why should I give Pegas built-in classes? Are you are building your project on Pega. Without reusing the code of Pega, how can you build your project in Pega? So some or the other place, you have to reuse the code of Pega, right? So if you're building a project in Java or .NET, you reuse the code of Java and .NET, right? Their functions, their methods, their classes, you reuse it. That is the reason you have bought that software, you took the license, you installed it. And if you don't want to use their code, why did you do all these things? So end of the day, your project is built on top of Pega. Means you have to inherit from Pega's classes. So where is that inheritance then? This is where you inherit from the Pega's classes. So once you reach the topmost class in your class structure, your topmost class inherits from Pega's built-in classes. This is unavoidable. So you can never build a project in Pega without having direct inheritance. Because my topmost class inherits from the Pega's built-in classes. Without that, you can't say I'm building a project in Pega because I have to reuse the code of Pega, right? So this is how it is. So directed inheritance is mandatory. Without that, we cannot build projects in Pega. Okay. This is a very important interview question and you need to know this.
So this one, it's a directed pattern, right? HDFC to work hour. That is a directed pattern.
You're mixing both of them. It's not directed pattern. It is
No, no,
either pattern
direct.
or directed. So
Okay.
it is directed.
Okay.
Because pattern means in the name it should be there. It's not there in the name, right? So it is directed.
So instead of work hour, we can provide base class as well here, right?
Yes, you can provide. You can provide. But generally, there is a reason that we give here because some reusable content is there in work dash cover dash, which we need. So all your topmost classes will inherit from work dash cover dash, but you can give at the rate base class. Okay. Now you
For
also
this
need.
one, can you open the inheritance, the inheritance page for this one?
It's not coming. Maybe because it's the top. Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah,
coming. See,
yeah, yes, yes.
HDFC top level class. From there, work dash cover dash, work dash, and finally at the rate base class. See, there is no pattern inheritance in this, directly directed inheritance.
Here, even though we check that checkbox, but still it is taking the direct inheritance first.
Yeah, because you don't have pattern parent, right? If you have pattern
Mm,
parents, they will take it. You don't
okay,
have, so where they will go.
okay.
Now, do you see something called as both here? What does both mean? Both means from HDFC to work dash cover dash, whether you go with pattern inheritance or, sorry, from work dash A, both means for these two, okay? For line number 2 and 3, it is both, not 1 and 2, sorry. From work dash cover dash to work dash, if you take pattern inheritance, you go to work dash. Maybe directed inheritance is also going to work dash. So they say both. Both means both pattern and directed are taking you to the same class. So if you see this, so when you say both, just understand that both pattern and directed are going to the same class. See, for work dash cover dash, the pattern parent is work dash. Directed parent is also work dash. So that is the reason you see both. So both going to the same class. Okay. And in earlier versions, okay, when we were in Pega 6 and all, people used to use some lines to represent inheritance. So they used to use solid lines for directed inheritance and dotted for pattern inheritance. That was like years back. No, nowadays nobody's doing it. Just good to know. Okay, they used to use that representation. That is when they draw diagrams on the paper. Nowadays nobody's doing it. Or on the paper or on a Word document when you draw. If it is directed, they used to give solid lines. If it is pattern, it was a dotted line. So they used to do like that. Just good to know, nothing to do with that. Okay. So these are few of the interview questions I have drafted here. You can go through them. Yeah, we have 15 more minutes, so I will talk about at the rate base class and other things as well, but only after a small recap. So just a quick recap about inheritance in PEGA. There are two types of inheritances in PEGA. One is called as pattern inheritance and one is called as directed inheritance. So a class in PEGA can have two different parents. One is like a pattern parent, the other one is directed parent. So which means PEGA is supporting multiple inheritance. Okay. So there is an interview question. PEGA is built on Java. Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. How come PEGA is supporting? The answer is simple. In Java, you can inherit from a class or you can inherit from an interface. Same thing in the background PEGA is using. Okay. So you can have two parents, one is pattern and one is directed. Pattern means the name itself will tell you who are your pattern parents. A hyphen B hyphen C hyphen D hyphen E. E's parent is D, D's parent is C, C's parent is B, B's parent is A. Over. What is directed? You explicitly being some class and you may mark it as your parent. That is directed. And which one is considered first when you search for a rule? Always pattern parents first. If something is not found in the pattern, we go to directed. Can we reverse it? Yes, by disabling the checkbox. Find by pattern first. If you disable it, it will be reverse. Can we build a project in Pega without direct inheritance? Not possible. Your project is built on Pega's OOTB classes. You cannot inherit from Pega's OOTB classes without having directed inheritance. So it's not possible. Any questions on inheritance before we move to the types of different classes and all, OOTB classes and all? Okay. Just one last thing for the day. We'll talk about some Pega's built-in classes. So in Java, you have one topmost class, right? Object or something or base class or something we have. Similarly in Pega, this is the topmost class, means this is the dead end. When you check your inheritance, this is the last. This is the dead end for you. So at the rate base class is the topmost class in Pega. You have at the rate also, okay? At the rate base class is the topmost class in Pega, the parent of all your classes. Okay. Now below at the rate base class, there are a lot of Pega's built-in classes. Assign dash, code dash, data dash, int dash, like this, rule dash, lot of classes are there. Now from each of these classes only, your code is coming. Okay. Suppose we are speaking about rules, right? I said class is a rule, report is a rule, validation is a rule. All these are rules in Pega. They all come under rule dash class of Pega. Okay. So they are all work objects of rule dash class of Pega. Okay. Similarly, we said data instances, right? Operator IDs, access groups, roles, privileges, all these are data instances. So they are all work objects of data dash class of Pega. Okay. Similarly, we maintain history in Pega. History dash class of Pega work objects. We have logs, log dash class of Pega. Okay. We upload attachments, we upload documents and all that, right? Where is that? We also have attach dash class. Maybe it is under some of these classes. Generally, we upload documents and attachments, right? It comes under um, somewhere we have attach dash class, maybe under some other parent class. So we have attach dash. Like this, from each of these classes only your application is coming. Okay. See, if you look at this, Now, oh, this is a very important interview question. What is at the rate base class? Abstract class or concrete class? It is abstract. They don't have any work objects. They don't have any tables connected to them. Okay, please remember this. At the rate base class is an abstract class, and that's an interview question. And look at this. It doesn't have this restriction. Directed class restriction is not there for this. Okay. Now, under at the rate base class, actually there are some important classes that you need to know. One second. Just checking if that is already there in a different slide. I want to use it. Okay. Okay. At the rate base class is the topmost class in Pega. Okay. Below that we have many classes, but some important ones I'm talking about. Work dash. Guys, please go on mute. Somebody is not on mute. Data dash. Int dash. Rule dash. Etc. Etc. Okay. For at least few important ones, let's talk about them. Okay. We have something like work, data, int, rule, and so on. Why are these classes important? Because we work with them in day-to-day life, mostly. Now, what is a work class? What kind of content you have to put under work class? Generally, when we build a project in Pega, we create some classes which inherit from Pega's work class. Okay. What content do you keep in the work classes? Work classes should always contain only business rules. Okay. What do you mean by business rules? Business rules means flows, validations, reports, okay, XYZ. Okay, all these things come under business rules. So generally these kind of rules we put only under the UI also. UI, user interface, means screens. All these things we put only under the work classes. Okay. Then what about data classes? Okay, what about data classes? Data classes are basically used to store some data in the tables. Like for example, I have a table called as customer data. Inside that I'll put all the customer data. I have a table called as countries, states, cities. I have a table called as, like student roll numbers or student data. So it is basically like a centralized repository. You have some tables, you put some content inside it, and you go and hit the table, get the data, and display it on your screens. So all such content we put in the data classes. Let's say, for example, you're taking Amazon. Okay. In the example of Amazon, Amazon will have a table called as mobiles, where they will put all the mobiles that they are selling, the mobile model number, the mobile images, the mobile price, the mobile brand, XYZ. Amazon will have a table called as, like, let's say toys. They'll put all the toy photos, toy prices, toy brands, XYZ things. So all these come under data classes. Data classes means basically you have some standalone data tables. You put some data inside them. Now you hit the tables, you get the data, and you use them on your screens, right? So those are called as data classes. So data classes means they have some standalone tables. It's more like a centralized repository. Okay. Data classes. We'll talk about work and data once in detail. Taking the example of Amazon. If you take Amazon, what will come under work class? So you have to build screens in Amazon, right? They come under work class. A screen where you can search your products, you can add them to the cart, you can make the payment. So all these screens comes under work class. you have to do validation, right? Validation of the card numbers. Okay, when you make a payment, I have to validate your card number. Okay, I have to uh, uh, what else? I have to validate the OTP that you have entered. Okay, I have to validate your login credentials. Okay, all this is under work class. And what else? You have to run reports, like when you click on order history. Okay, order history is basically a report, right? You pull a report and you show them what all orders they have placed in the last 6 months, last 1 year, whatever it is. It's basically a report. So all these things come under work classes. Now, what comes under data class in the example of Amazon? Data classes means like standalone tables. So Amazon has a table for mobiles where you store all the mobile images, mobile models, mobile brands, mobile descriptions, mobile prices, and all. That comes under data class. Amazon has a table called as customer data. So where I put your first name, last name, all your saved addresses, all your saved cards, your valid balance, XYZ things. That's a standalone table. It's a data class. Now Amazon has a table called as Prime members. So who are all Prime members? Their membership start date, membership end date, XYZ stuff. We store it in a table that is Prime members. So now this is data class and this is work class. Now when Amazon wants to show you mobiles on the screen, what will Amazon do? From work class, they will hit this table, get the data and display here. Right? When you click on your profile, okay, what Amazon will do? Amazon will pull your customer data from here and display on the screen. So basically data class means you dump some data in it and they're standalone. Whenever you want to show them on the screen or whenever you want to pull a history and all, you hit these tables, you get the data and you use them here. Okay. So when we build a project in Pega, this is how we separate the business rules and the data layer and we work with them. So business rules and data layer are kept separate in Pega and we work with them like this. Do you have any questions on the difference between work and data layers?
No.
Oh, super. So this is how we work, guys. Work in data. Now, how about int and rules? Int is like basically integrations. Like int is for integration, means connecting to another application to process the order. Now let's talk about the int layer. Now I'm trying to make payment in Amazon. Okay, you're trying to make the payment. Now when you make the payment, what will they do? They will connect to your banking site. Okay, or they will connect to your UPI app, or they will deduct money from the wallet. So you have multiple options like this. Okay, so payment is being done from Amazon. Okay, Amazon is a different application. Now when you say banking site, it can be HDFC, it can be Citibank, it can be Axis Bank, it can be Standard Chartered Bank, it can be anything. They are different applications, right? So one application is connecting to a different application to process your payment. So that is called as integration. Two applications talking to each other is called as integration. Similarly here, Amazon is connecting to any of your UPIs. So what is this? Integration. Amazon talking to wallet? No, this is not integration. Okay, it is not a part of integration. Within the same application, if you are doing, it's not integration. If you are connecting to a different application, then it is called as integration. Okay. Similarly, if you take any booking website, okay, suppose you went to a website called as booking.com. Okay, and you're trying to book a flight. Now, what booking.com will do? It will connect to SpiceJet, okay, Indigo, Air India, whatever, etc. Whatever airways are there, it will connect to them. It will get the data and display on your screen, and you will select the seat XYZ, and you'll make the payment. So what is the relationship between those two websites then? That is called as integration. Two applications are talking to each other, which is called as integration. So such piece of code we put it in the int classes in Pega. So just segregating the things, guys, to make the better management of the application. We separate them. We keep all business rules at one place. We keep all standalone tables at one place. We keep all the integrations at one place. So this is how we build a project in Pega. Have a look at it and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Anybody, any questions? Ankita, do you have any questions? Gandhi, any questions?
The role classes after this one, right?
Which one? Rule.
Rule.
Okay. Yeah, it is just simple. Rule means anything you create, any rule that you create in Pega comes from the rule dash class of Pega. Okay.
Okay.
Any rule that you create in Pega, like let it be a flow, let it be a screen, let it be a validation, anything. End of the day, if it's a rule, it comes under rule dash class of Pega. Generally, we don't create rule dash classes. Just we create rules. They come under rule dash class of Pega. Okay.
Okay.
When we create a project, we don't create any rule dash classes. We only create work data int classes. As a part of my project, we only create these three layers.
So first one class is abstract and other two are concrete or what? Just need to understand.
No. Work can be abstract or concrete.
Okay, it's not like that.
It's
No,
not like
for
that.
this
See, work.
kind of you
Hmm.
have already
Actually,
explained, but I
actually, in this you are creating work objects, right? So this will be concrete, and you also put some reusable content, so they will be
yeah,
abstract. And this can never be abstract because abstract class means no tables. These are
yes.
tables, right? So they will never be abstract. And this can be anything abstract or concrete. You can put anything.
Okay.
Nikhila, can you open any abstract class once?
Any abstract class, at the rate base class is an abstract class, or you can take your work data int. They are all abstract. Let's pull them.
Okay.
See, in older
Yeah.
versions of
Okay.
Pega, there is a naming convention, guys. If it is an abstract class, they used to put a hyphen at the last. Now, that is not the trend that we are following from Pega 7, but in older versions, that was a trend. Like if it's an abstract class, it should end with a hyphen, work dash, rule dash, which means it's an abstract class. That's not the case today. Olden days, this is the way that we used to do. Yeah, this is an abstract class.
Yeah. If we see for the concrete classes, this class type is disabled, right? So for this one, it is enabled, right, to select the concrete as well. Is there any
Huh.
chance of changing it to concrete?
You can
Because
change
it
it,
is
but
an
generally we
editable
should not
mode,
do
right?
it. You know why it is disabled?
Okay.
Even for concrete, until and unless you create the first work object, it will be enabled. Once you create work
Okay.
objects, what will happen? DB table creation will happen, data will be stored in the table. So now you can't make it abstract. If you make it abstract, the data will be lost, right? So Pega will disable
Yeah.
it. Now, whereas in the case of
Okay.
abstract, you don't have a table. So if you want to change it, you can change it to concrete, and you can map a table, and you can do all those things. So they'll give you this option.
Okay. Okay.
So if the app connects to an external database, so the classes which are helping that perspective will come under integration, it would be different.
If you're connecting to external data, external system, then it is a part of the integration only.
Okay.
The topmost base class doesn't have the direct inheritance, right? Is that correct? That is the topmost.
Yes, I have shown you that, right? It doesn't have direct inheritance.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's it for the day, guys. Any questions before we log off? If no questions, just try to go through all the recordings once, okay? We'll do a small recap and we'll have a small mock kind of, okay? Please don't skip the sessions when I say mock, okay? I'll just ask the question. Those who are comfortable can give the answers, okay? So just don't skip the session. It's like a kind of interview preparation for you. So whatever we have completed till day, just go through all the recordings once, okay, today, so that we'll just have a questionnaire kind of thing tomorrow. Okay, any other questions before we log off? Okay. Okay, guys, if not, thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Nikhil.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhila.
Thank you.